Here in America, we are rapidly approaching the Thanksgiving season. And as I think about this YouTube journey, Erudite Magic, the books that I have on my shelf, my heart is overwhelmed with the thankfulness that I have for many of the books that I've acquired over the years. So while I understand that this is the time for a lot of people to use the sales that are out there to accumulate more books for themselves, and I normally would give you a list of books, I've already done that and most of that hasn't changed. So I'm going to drop a link up here in the corner. If you're interested in my holiday guide to different magic books that I recommend at different price tiers, then this video will hold you in good stead. Instead, in this episode, I want to focus on a few stories, books that I'm extremely grateful for that have come into my life and why. And while I'm doing this episode, if something pops into your head, a book that has meant a lot to you, I want you to drop it down in the comments below because I want to hear your stories too. The first book on this list that I want to tell you a little story about is my very first foray into Harry Lorayne's world of impromptu shuffle deck and use type of magic. It's not the book that you would expect, which would be close-up card magic. It's actually Apocalypse volumes 1 through 5. If you don't already know or haven't experienced it, your love for magic will often hit some ebbs and flows. And for me, during college, I hit an ebb. I was focused on dating, sports, getting my career started, starting my family. So I didn't have a lot of time for magic. But then I met someone who had been a magician and it got me back interested in it. I joined the local club. Anyway, I started fellowshipping more with magicians. And one day, one of these magicians told me that he had purchased a book, Apocalypse, volumes 1 through 5 on eBay. And after reading it for a little while, he felt like it really wasn't for him and he knew that I loved magic books, the few that I had at the time, and wanted me to have it. So he gifted it to me. This was a game changer for me because this was the very first periodical I had ever acquired. I didn't even know that there were magic magazines other than, say, the Linking Ring magazine or something like that. So imagine my surprise when I cracked open this book and saw hundreds and hundreds of pages of magic from all different creators. It opened my eyes to a lot of different magicians and the magic they created, and it exposed me to Harry Lorayne, which then led me on to discovering more of his work and that impromptu shuffle deck and use style. The funniest part about the whole thing was that when I first started to read it immediately after he gave it to me, I didn't get everything that was being talked about. It took me months more of reading, digesting, processing magic books before I understood all of the jargon and felt comfortable reading what was in there and then trying to learn some of those tricks. If you're interested in seeing some of Apocalypse and want kind of a low lift way to test the waters, I understand that one of the volumes, the red one, volumes 6 through 10, is going to be on a significant discount during this holiday season. So if you're wanting to check it out, I highly recommend you pick it up, look through, see what kind of tricks appeal to you, and decide if you want to complete that collection. Along those same lines of a magic magazine, once I was exposed to Apocalypse, I started to look around at other books and magazines and quickly came across Ted Animan and the Jinx. Now, not every book on this list is going to be a periodical, but it just seemed to flow naturally in the way I want to tell this story. I acquired 3 hardbound volumes of the Jinx from eBay at different times from 3 different sources. And man, am I glad I did. What this series showed me and taught me is that old magic doesn't necessarily make something bad or boring magic. Tons of material in the Jinx can be performed exactly as written up. Of course, it's going to need your presentational touches. Another interesting lesson that this old series of books taught me is that hardly anything is truly new. Many of the ideas that were published in the Jinx were variations of older ideas, and then today people have reinvented, taken tricks straight out of the Jinx and put them onto video, added their own small touches, and then released that as a new product. So it really pays to understand your history, go back and read through older sources, and learn those effects because magicians have been entertaining audiences for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And it didn't necessarily matter to the lay public what method was being used, whether this was the latest and greatest, or if this was just a hoary old classic. So I want to encourage you, dive into those older sources. If you have Tarbell, check it out. If you want to test out Ted Animan, then pick up Practical Mental Effects or Practical Mental Magic. It's very inexpensive and you'll get kind of a best of the Jinx. And then later, if you decide you want to go further, you can purchase the Jinx digitally. And for the serious collectors among you, you can pursue the hardbound version from a used magic book source. speaking of those types of sources, Don's Magic and Books is my personal favorite when it comes to shopping for books that are out of print. Don has sold tens of thousands of books since he started his business back in 2019. And the reason that he has been so successful as a bookseller is because he carries such a wide variety. You can find new books that have just been published, but more importantly, you can find rare books at reasonable prices. He often acquires magicians' libraries who no longer need them and then lists them at very fair and reasonable prices, especially when you compare it to some of the Facebook marketplaces or eBay prices from people who are looking to make a lot of money off the book. Don is more focused on making sure that these books get to live on in someone's library and be appreciated for as long as possible. So if that appeals to you, I encourage you to check out the link down in the description below. Go to his website, see what he has, and become a lifelong customer of Don's Magic and Books. I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of the first books that started my collection and my interest in magic books, The Magic of Michael Amar. I was just a teenager when I joined the Chazpro Book Club, and I picked up this book with a couple of others. There was one primary reason I picked it up. I wanted to learn Crazy Man's handcuffs, one of the most perfect close-up illusions and tricks ever conceived. But I also knew there was a ton of other great stuff in this book, and I am so glad that I pulled the trigger and bought this. I pored over the pages and I learned so much more than just that one trick. Michael shared all kinds of things like his practice routines, his psychology behind magic. He had stand-up material, close-up material, cups and balls. It was such a well-rounded magic book, and that was exactly what I needed at the time that I picked it up. I go back to it often, especially when I want to revisit nostalgic feelings about magic books. It takes me back immediately to my childhood when I was first discovering magic books. For you, what was your first magic book that you fell in love with? Another one that I'm thankful I discovered, and I'm actually very thankful is back available again, is The Card Magic of Nick Trost. I've been touting this book on this channel for a long time, and the reason is because I feel like these are such easy to do, accessible, and performable tricks for most magicians and their friends or an audience. That's not to say that these tricks won't fool a magician, they will, but the beauty of them is that they're pretty simple to learn, pretty simple to understand, and it's just the kind of encouragement that I needed when I was getting started to put some magic out into the world, to share some tricks with people. I'm reminded of a time that I was on a business trip and I shared a very simple card trick with the guy who was driving me around in Mexico. His eyes lit up at the end of my performance when the magic that he did actually worked, and I said goodbye. Later that day, he picked me up and he said something that I'll never forget. I remember him telling me that the trick that I had showed him that morning, the simple card trick that I had learned from a source like Nick Trost, he said made his day. And it was then that I realized the power of the gift of magic, that we can help someone to see the world in a slightly different way, maybe experience wonder for one of the first times in a long time, or just put a smile on their face. Ever since then, I've studied magic with new eyes, recognizing that while I might be jaded and cynical about methods and about what this looks like to my magic buddies, that's all irrelevant when you actually put a piece of magic in front of a lay audience who has never seen close-up magic before. So I encourage you, if you don't already, learn a simple card trick and then share that with someone else. Magic really is a gift. I'm going to give you two more books. The one shouldn't be too much of a surprise. I've talked about it several times here on the channel, but The Secret Ways of Al Baker. Al Baker's my favorite magician. He did all kinds of stuff, mentalism, ventriloquism, close-up magic. He invented thread work, basically. He was the dean of the Society of American Magicians. He was very plugged in, personal friends with Houdini, Animan, and many others. Prolific in his writing. There's a lot to love. The reason that this book stands out as one for which I'm very thankful is because it was one of the first books that I picked up that contained a lifetime of magic within two covers. It made me realize that you don't always have to seek the latest and greatest or what the hottest trend is in the market right now to learn some great magic. Instead, it actually pays to study someone who's had a very successful career and is now sharing everything that they've learned. It set me on a path to pursue lifetime magic books. And in fact, I've done a video on that about some of my favorite lifetime works. When people approach the end of their careers, they're usually not keeping as many secrets. They're giving you everything. And I love to read those kinds of stories, understand what motivated them, what kind of magic they did, and how that can help me. Finally, the last book I want to share with you that I'm grateful for during this holiday season and this time of being thankful intentionally is The Stars of Magic. I had heard about this one for a long time, and finally, after a few years, I acquired it. Of course, it started off as a series of pamphlets that was later bound into a book and sold through several different publishers, and now My Magic publishes it, and it's still widely available. This book has really two benefits. One was the tricks themselves. This is like a best of. This is the first time that Di Vernon published things like Triumph, the original handle. There's Spellbound taught in there. Dr. Daly has a couple of tricks. Coins through table, cutting to the aces. There's just a ton of great magic in this book. And that brings me to what it actually taught me, is that magic is such a great hobby because it doesn't have to cost very much. If you were into a hobby like golf, you could spend a lot of time and money on clubs and going out and practicing. And every time you wanted to do that, it would probably cost you money. The beauty of magic is that it doesn't have to be that way. This book, I believe, is still around $35, and it teaches some incredible magic. If you pair that up with some items that you probably already have around your house, like a pack of playing cards, some coins, a glass, just simple props, you can get started in magic. It won't cost you anything to practice, and once you feel comfortable with the sleights involved and how you're going to present this, now you can go do what I already alluded to earlier in the video, share some magic with someone and brighten their day. So no matter what you're looking for this holiday season, I hope this list encourages you that there's something we can learn from every book we acquire. Some of them will resonate more than others and teach you bigger lessons. I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the lessons you've learned from magic books, or what are you thankful for this holiday season? If you're interested in knowing some of my recommendations by price points, don't forget you can check out this video over here. And if you want to see the latest thing that I'm talking about, you can check out this video. As always, my friend, I appreciate you watching. And until next time, keep reading.